biogeochemical cycle. So what is this biogeochemical cycle? The biological organisms which are going to get involved in the recycling of nutrients is called as biogeochemical cycle. So this cycle can be divided into two parts, as solid phase as well as the gaseous phase. So let us see about the carbon cycle first, which comes under the gaseous phase. So what is this carbon cycle? So carbon is found in the atmosphere in the form of carbon dioxide. And this carbon dioxide is utilized by the plants to make their food substances with the help of the process called as photosynthesis. And the organisms, or what we call as the herbivores, which depends upon the plants for their food, eat the plants, and this organism too respires. The organisms, herbivores are the carnivores, or the organisms which respires and gives out the carbon dioxide. This in turn, the carbon is getting received in the atmosphere. Finally, the plants as well as the animals becomes dead, and the dead remains of the plants and animals are converted into substances which are required for the gaseous cycle, is decayed by the fungi and bacteria. So this cycle we call as carbon cycle. The carbon becomes the part of the food. The carbon is being incorporated in the routine food of the living organism. So the plant starts to grow, the organism eats, they digest the organic compounds, and the use of these products for their own purposes is very, very essential for the growth of the living organism. All living organisms carry out respiration. We know that respiration is very, very important for the survival of the organism. So when we respire, the respiration or the gases helps in the breaking down of food substances to release the energy, what we normally call as metabolic process. This metabolic process also helps in the production of carbon dioxide, which in turn receives into the atmosphere. So when plants and animals die, most of their bodies are decomposed by fungi and bacteria. So these fungi and bacteria are together called as decomposing organisms. These decomposing organisms help in the breakdown of organic compounds through a process called as respiration, and through the respiration, the carbon dioxide and carbon atoms are returned to the atmosphere. Some are not decomposed fully. So though these organisms decompose or acting on the substances, the microbes cannot decompose the substances completely and ends up in a deposits in the underground, what we normally call as oil, coal, etc. So humans burn these fuels and release the carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. So this cycle or the diagram represents the carbon cycle. So here you can see the carbon in the atmosphere. So nearly more amount of carbon is present in the atmosphere, and this carbon is utilized by many of the organisms. So it is given in the arrow forms. We can see carbon slowly released from these substances returns to the atmosphere. So how it is going? So the chain starts from the plants. Carbon present in the atmosphere is utilized by the plants, and those plants are utilized by the animals, and the plants and animals both die, and these plants bodies and animal bodies are decomposed. Some are getting deposited in the form of oil and coal, and those oil and coal are utilized by the industries, and those industries release the carbon slowly into the atmosphere. And again, the burning of the fossil fuel, which releases the carbon in the atmosphere. All these process slowly returns the carbon to the atmosphere itself. This cycling process only we call as carbon cycle. So this is in the atmospheric form. What we spoke still now was about the atmosphere. How much amount of carbon dioxide is found in the atmosphere and how it is utilized. Everything is dependent upon the atmosphere. Now we move on to the oceanic phase, that is in the water. How much amount of carbon is there in the water? how the carbon is utilized by the organisms, and how from the ocean the carbon or the carbon source is being replaced to the environment. So additional carbon is stored in the ocean. So how the carbon can be stored in the ocean? Many animals pull the carbon from water to use for the formation of their shells. We know that numerous amount of shelled organisms which comes under the phylum Mollusca are found in the marine region or even some in the freshwater also. So these animals die and carbon substances are deposited at the bottom of the ocean. So we can call that ocean contains a large amount of carbon, and it can also be called as Earth's large store of carbon source. Ocean can be called as the Earth's largest store of carbon. So this is again a picture which represents the carbon cycle. And greenhouse gases, we know very well about the greenhouse gas. Greenhouse gas is very, very important, or the talk of the global nowadays, because this greenhouse gas is warming up the globe and helps in the global warming. We cannot say that it is helping, it is deteriorating the entire globe. Anyway, those gases, what is that greenhouse gas? What it is going to do? How it is produced? We'll see that. So greenhouse effect is causing the earth to warm up. The entire earth or the entire globe is getting warmed up. It is due to increasing amounts of greenhouse gases. So these greenhouse gases are carbon dioxide, water vapor, methane, CFC. So many gases are included. As we are talking about the carbon dioxide, we will discuss about the carbon dioxide, how it is going to play as a greenhouse gas. So this is causing the climate change and melting of the polar ice caps. This could lead to the flooding of the globe. Burning fuels is the major cause of the increase of carbon dioxide or the greenhouse gases. Emission of vehicle pollution, industrial pollution, all these causes the carbon dioxide to get increased and accumulated in the atmosphere, which causes the ozone depletion. The carbon dioxide, CFC, methane, and other gases reaches the atmosphere, and the atmosphere has a very good layer of covering called as ozone, and thus that ozone is being depleted, which allows the passage of infrared rays and ultraviolet rays, which is going to cause numerous amount of hazardous effects to the human beings as well as to the animals. So by this, we conclude about the carbon cycle. So how the carbon is being utilized by the animals, how the carbon is being utilized by the plants, and how they are returned back to the soil. Whatever is taken from the soil. Whatever is taken is from the universe. It has to be returned back. How much amount of carbon is being taken, it has to be replenished. Replenishing is filling back the substances we have taken. So the plants are absorbing the carbon and it is growing. The grown plants are eaten by the animals in the form of food chain. And once the organisms die, it is given back to the universe back. And this we normally call as cycle. So carbon cycle ends by here. So the next cycle is nitrogen cycle. Nitrogen cycle also comes under the gaseous cycle. It is also a kind of gas. So what is the use of nitrogen? How it is present? So largest single source of nitrogen is in the atmosphere. Nitrogen makes up 79% of the atmospheric air. But living organisms cannot use this nitrogen directly. We doesn't have the ability to use the nitrogen present in the atmosphere directly. So this picture will help to understand the cycle in a better way. Nitrogen is found in the atmosphere. Similarly to the previous cycle, nitrogen is present in the atmosphere. And nitrogen fixation. The plants help in the fixation of nitrogen. As we spoke that nitrogen cannot be utilized by the organisms directly. It has to be fixed. So the plants help in the fixation of nitrogen. How it is going to help? Nitrogen fixing bacteria in the root nodules. So we can see the root nodules. The plants have the nodules, and there numerous amount of bacteria are found, and these bacteria helps in the fixing of nitrogen in the soil. And these nodules are found in the leguminous plants, not in the all plants. Some plants we call as leguminous plants, and in the leguminous plants, the microbes are nodules are there, and in the nodules, numerous amount of bacteria lives, and they have a symbiotic association. The plant and the microorganisms possess a very good mutual understanding, a symbiotic relationship. The plant provides the space for the survival of the microorganism, and the microorganisms helps the plants for converting the atmospheric nitrogen into the usable form. So this helps in the nitrogen fixation. So these are the bacteria present in the soil, which is going to help in the nitrogen fixation. And the process happens. Nitrogen is being converted to ammonium. So ammonia is there, and then the ammonia will be converted to nitrates with the help of denitrifying bacteria. With the help of denitrifying bacteria, the ammonium is converted, nitrates are converted, and then the ammonium, denitrifying bacteria denitrifies the amino acids and proteins found in the plants and animals. When the animals and plants dies, the denitrifying bacteria assimilates. This is going to assimilate the substances found in the dead animal and plants, and those amino acids and proteins found in the dead plants and animals are broken down. And the detritus organism is the decomposing organism. These organisms, they detribute the substances into the form of ammonium, and the ammonium is decomposed. So by this process, the entire nitrogen is getting back to the atmosphere. So nitrogen in the atmosphere is utilized by the plants, and the plants cannot use the nitrogen directly. With the help of the microorganisms found in the root nodules of the plants, they fix the nitrogen. Once the organism fixes the nitrogen, it is converted to the form of ammonia, and the ammonia is converted to nitrates, and these nitrates are converted to nitrates are converted to nitrogen with the help of denitrifying bacteria. And the same time, the nitrates present here are taken up by the animals and plants. When these organisms die, they are converted back into ammonium with the detrivorous organism decomposed and taken back to the ammonium form. And from the ammonium form, the cycle continues again, and it is converted to the nitrogen and given back to the atmosphere. So there are 4 phases in the cycle. First, we spoke about the nitrogen fixation. So the organisms are going to help in the nitrogen fixation. And second comes the decay. That is, decomposing organisms converts the organic nitrogen to ammonium. Nitrification, converting ammonium to nitrates or ammonia. Denitrification, ammonia is converted to nitrate. So microorganisms play an important part in the cycle. So what is nitrogen fixation? The enormous energy of lightning. So by nature gives the lightning. When the lightning happens, it breaks the nitrogen molecules apart and enables the nitrogen atoms to combine with oxygen, which helps in the formation of nitrogen oxide, that is N2O. The nitrogen oxides dissolve in the rain. When naturally, when the rain falls, the gas nitrogen oxide is dissolved in the water, and forms the nitrates, that is NO3. And nitrates are carried to the ground with the rain. So can you see this? So this will clearly help you to understand how the nitrogen and oxygen is combined, and which helps in the formation of nitrogen oxide and nitrates. So this is the process, how the lightning is fixed to form the nitrogen. So when naturally lightning happens, nitrogen combines with oxygen and it forms nitrogen oxides, and nitrogen oxide dissolve in rain and changes into nitrates, and plants use nitrates for their growth. And industrial fixation, the nitrogen fixation is done by the industries also. Biological fixation, the leguminous plants helps the microorganism rhizobium to live in the roots, and they help in the conversion of nitrogen to the usable form of ammonium ions with the mutual understanding, or in the symbiotic association. So this slide explains about the symbiotic relationship, how the plants, leguminous plants, and the uh, root of the leguminous plants helps in the presence of bacteria, leguminous bacteria, and these two help in the fixation of nitrogen. So this picture shows the root nodules of the leguminous plants, and the root nodules possess the bacteroids. Nitrogen changes into ammonium with the help of the bacteria. So decay is the next step. Animals acquire their amino acids, and when they eat plants, when they are eating the plants, we get the amino acids whatever we need for our growth. And when the animals and plants die, their remains are utilized by the microorganisms for their food purpose, such as bacteria and fungi, and it converts the nitrogen back into ammonium. So it is restored in the soil once again, and nitrification takes place. Nitrifying bacteria in the soil combines with ammonia with oxygen, and it changes to nitrites. And nitrifying bacteria in the soil converts nitrites to nitrates. Plants absorb nitrates for their growth. So this ammonia is converted to the usable form of nitrate, and the plants are utilizing it. So this picture clearly shows how the atmospheric nitrogen is taken up by the soil. The nitrogen fixing bacteria are there, ammonifying bacteria. They convert the organic material to the ammonium form, and the nitrifying bacteria converts to nitrate, and the nitrate is utilized by the plant root. So see, from the nitrogen form, it is converted to the usable form of nitrate, and the plants are utilizing it, where it is converted to amino acids in the body. So denitrification is the next step, which converts nitrates in the soil to the atmospheric nitrogen, that is returning back to the air. From where we have taken, it is being returned to the nature itself, replenishing the nature. So denitrifying bacteria live deep in the soil and in the aquatic sediments, where conditions make it difficult for them to get the oxygen. So there, the denitrifying bacteria converts the nitrogen and give it back to the nitrogen cycle. So this is the acid rain, how the nitrogen cycle is affecting the atmosphere. So human activity have doubled the amount of fixed nitrogen entering the nitrogen cycle in just 100 years. So more amount of nitrogen is being cycled. The manufacture and use of nitrogen fertilizers, combustion of fossil fuels, and forest burning, everything changes the climate. The climate change causes the acid rain, the acidification of the soil, and the loss of soil nutrients, and the acidification of streams and lakes. So all these things, when nitrogen is being converted to nitrous oxide, when water mixes along with it, it causes the nitric acid. Along with the rain, nitric acid is fallen to the earth, which is called as acid rain, which kills the fishes, damages the trees and buildings. We know that the natural monument, the Taj Mahal, the marble color was pure white when it was built. And now, due to the acidification and the acid rain, the pure white marble is being converted to pale yellowish color, or it is getting dull because of the acid rain. So, most of our natural and national treasures are being destroyed because of the human activity. The same way, the aquatic organisms and other terrestrial organisms are getting hurt with the human activity. By this, we conclude the nitrogen cycle. Thank you for the patient listening, and I acknowledge the image courtesy and the images what I have taken from the Google.